In the Philippines, street food is more than hunger. It's childhood after school, coins warm in your palm, the sound of oil popping under a corrugated roof. Fish balls, quack, barbecue smoke mixing with laughter. This story begins there. Not in New York, not in bright lights, but on a humid evening where plastic stools wobble and hope feels small but stubborn. What you're about to hear may sound impossible at first. That's good, because the best stories always do. And if you stay until the end, you might realize this isn't just about food at all. His name was Mateo Cruz. Back home, nobody called him a dreamer. He was quiet, practical, the type who cleaned the grill before going to bed. Mateo grew up watching his mother sell banana Q by the roadside, her hands moving fast, her smile slower. When she died, the cart became his inheritance. Years passed. Manila traffic thickened. Rent rose. One night, under flickering bulbs, Mateo heard a rumor. A cousin in Queens needed help. New York, a city so far it felt imaginary. Mateo sold the cart for less than it was worth and booked a one-way ticket. New York did not welcome him gently. The cold shocked his bones. The noise never slept. Mateo washed dishes in the Bronx 12 hours a day, sending most of his pay back home. At night, he cooked quietly in a shared apartment, recreating the smells he missed. Neighbors knocked, curious. "What is that?" they'd ask. He smiled, shy, offering samples. Fish balls and paper towels. Sweet, familiar sauce. Something started there. Mateo didn't know it yet, but the city was listening. New York always listens. It just pretends not to. The cart came later. Borrowed money. A second-hand steel frame. No permits yet. Just courage and desperation. Mateo chose a corner in Midtown, close to offices and tourists, far from comfort. He worked fast, eyes down, heart loud. First night, no customers. Second night, one Filipino nurse stopped, surprised. Third night, a student from Brooklyn filmed him cooking quack, the orange batter glowing under streetlight. The video was short, 15 seconds. Mateo didn't even notice the phone. He was focused on not burning the eggs. By morning, the video had thousands of views. By afternoon, tens of thousands. Comments flooded in. "That's my childhood." "Where is this?" "I'm crying." Mateo was washing dishes when his phone started vibrating nonstop. He thought something was wrong back home. Instead, it was strangers asking for directions. By evening, a line formed. Then another. Office workers. Tourists. Filipinos who hadn't tasted this in years. Mateo's hand shook as he cooked. Not from fear. From something heavier. Recognition. Overnight is a phrase people use loosely. This time it was real. News blogs picked it up. Mysterious Filipino street food vendor takes NYC by storm. Nobody knew much about him. That made it better. Mystery spreads faster. Someone claimed he was a former chef. Another said he was undocumented. None of it was true, but the story kept growing. Mateo didn't correct anyone. He barely spoke English on camera. He let the food talk. And it did. Loudly. Sweet. Salty. Familiar to some. New to many. With attention came pressure. City inspectors appeared. Permits questioned. Lines blocked sidewalks. Police asked him to move. One night, his cart was nearly confiscated. A crowd protested, filming everything. "Let him cook," someone shouted. It sounded funny online. It wasn't funny there. Mateo went home shaking, wondering if this was the end. Viral fame doesn't protect you from rules. It exposes you to them. Sleep didn't come. He dreamed of his mother, fanning smoke away from her eyes, saying nothing. The next day, something changed. A local councilwoman visited the cart. Cameras followed. She tasted the food, nodded slowly. "This," she said, "is New York." The clip spread faster than the first. Donations appeared. Lawyers offered help. A GoFundMe raised more money in 2 days than Mateo had seen in his life. He stared at the numbers, convinced it was a mistake. But it wasn't. People weren't just buying food. They were buying a feeling, a memory, a story they wanted to be part of. Success, when sudden, can be dangerous. Mateo's cousin worried. "Slow down," he said. "This city eats people." Mateo listened, but the line outside grew longer every day. Media requests piled up. He declined most. One interview went wrong. A reporter asked if his story proved the American dream still worked. Mateo paused too long. The internet filled the silence with its own answers. Some accused him of exploiting culture. Others defended him fiercely. The comments became a battlefield. Mateo kept cooking. He didn't know how to fight with words. At night, he counted money alone, hands trembling. He thought of home, of siblings, of expectations rising quietly across the ocean. Fame is loud, but responsibility is louder. Mateo decided to open a small shop, a permanent place. Stability. He signed a lease in Queens, close to where Filipinos gathered on Sundays. Construction started. The internet celebrated. Then something unexpected happened. Sales dipped. Lines shortened. Attention shifted. A new viral story replaced his. That's the part nobody likes to talk about. Virality has a short memory. Opening day arrived anyway. The shop was modest. Plastic chairs. Bright menu photos. Mateo wore the same apron from the cart. The turnout was smaller than he imagined. Cameras were gone. Influencers moved on. For a moment, panic crept in. Had this all been a fluke? Mateo served each customer carefully, like it was the first night again. He remembered why he started. Not to trend. To cook. That night, an older Filipino man thanked him quietly, eyes wet. "You brought me back," he said. Weeks passed. Slowly, steadily, the shop found its rhythm. Not explosive. Real. Families came. Workers returned. Stories replaced hype. Mateo hired 2 employees, both immigrants. He paid them fairly. Word spread differently this time. Not through shock, but trust. Then, one evening, a famous chef walked in unannounced. Cameras followed, but discreetly. He ordered everything. Ate silently. Then said one sentence that changed everything again. "This is one of the most honest meals in New York." The second wave was quieter but deeper. Long-form articles. Cultural essays. A documentary crew requested access. Mateo hesitated, then agreed. They followed him at dawn markets, at night cleaning floors. They filmed him calling home, translating success into something his family could understand. The story shifted from overnight sensation to sustained survival. Viewers connected more. This wasn't magic. It was work. The kind people recognized in themselves. Subscriptions climbed. Comments softened. Mateo's face became familiar, but his mystery remained. With recognition came invitations. Food festivals. International features. He declined most. New York was enough. Then came an email from Manila. A pop-up event. Homecoming. Mateo read it twice. He hadn't been back in years. Fear and excitement tangled. When he arrived, crowds gathered like it was a reunion they'd been waiting for. He cooked on the street again, just like before. Same oil. Same smoke. Different weight. Cameras captured his hand shaking, not from nerves, but memory. Back in New York, the shop expanded. Slowly. Carefully. Mateo refused to franchise. He said no to investors who wanted speed. "I don't want to lose it," he explained, struggling for words. "Lose what?" they asked. He couldn't explain. "Some things you feel, not pitch." The documentary aired. Viewers cried, shared, debated. The algorithm loved it. But more importantly, people did. Mateo became a symbol, whether he wanted to or not, of migration, of patience, of quiet persistence. Not everyone believed the story. Skeptics dug in. Old videos. Inconsistencies. They questioned timelines. Accused exaggeration. True crime channels analyzed his rise like a mystery. Mateo watched one late night, confused by the tone. Suspense music under his life. He laughed once, then turned it off. The truth felt simpler. He cooked. People ate. The rest was noise. Still, the scrutiny reminded him how fragile narratives are. How quickly love turns into suspicion when something feels too good. A year after the first viral video, Mateo returned to that midtown corner. The spot was empty. New vendors. New smells. He stood quietly, unnoticed. A tourist walked past, filming something else. Mateo smiled. That chapter was closed. Back at the shop, business was steady. Not sensational. Sustainable. He liked that word. It sounded like breathing. That night, he added a new item to the menu. His mother's recipe. No announcement. No post. Just a quiet tribute. Customers noticed. They asked. Mateo told the story for the first time, slowly, in broken English. About inheritance that wasn't money. About learning to stand all day. About losing someone and cooking anyway. People listen differently than they did online. In person, stories land softer. Deeper. The documentary crew filmed again, catching something raw. Not triumph. Acceptance. Mateo wasn't chasing a moment anymore. He was building a life. The difference showed in his posture. In his eyes. The shop became a meeting place. Students studying. Nurses after shifts. Conversations crossed accents. Food bridged gaps without asking permission. New York thrives on that. Mateo watched it happen daily, quietly proud. He stayed off social media mostly. Let others post. The algorithm did its thing without him. Sometimes he wondered what would have happened if that first video never existed. The thought didn't scare him anymore. It just felt like another possible life. This one was enough. Late one night, a young street vendor visited. Nervous. Hopeful. He asked for advice. Mateo thought carefully. Cook well, he said. And be patient. It sounded simple. It wasn't. But it was true. The vendor nodded, maybe disappointed. Mateo recognized himself in him. That scared him more than fame ever did. Responsibility sneaks up quietly. The documentary ended filming soon after. The crew said goodbye. Mateo returned to scrubbing grills, like always. When the documentary premiered online, views climbed steadily. Not explosive. Enduring. Comments came from everywhere. The Philippines. The UK. Russia. People saw different things in the same story. Immigration. Hustle. Nostalgia. Mateo read some. Skipped others. He didn't need validation anymore. The work spoke daily. One comment stuck with him. This feels real. He smiled at that. Real was enough. Years later, people would still say overnight. Mateo corrected them sometimes. Gently. Overnight is easier to digest than years of quiet effort. But maybe people needed the myth. Stories survive on compression. He accepted that. The shop expanded again, adding a small training program for street vendors navigating permits. Giving back felt natural. Necessary. New York had taken him in. He returned the favor with oil, heat, and patience. On the anniversary of his arrival in the city, Mateo closed early. He walked alone, watching crowds move like rivers. He wasn't invisible anymore, but he wasn't famous either. He was something better. Rooted. He thought of that first night, cooking under streetlight, hoping for one customer. He'd gotten millions. Not all at once. Not in money. In moments. In connection. That felt heavier than success. In a good way. The true mystery of this story isn't how fast he rose. It's why people stayed. Why, in a city addicted to novelty, something simple endured. Maybe it was timing. Maybe hunger. Maybe memory travels farther than we think. Mateo never answered that. He just kept cooking. Let others analyze. That's what documentaries do. They search for meaning. Sometimes the meaning is a man flipping eggs, day after day, refusing to rush. When asked if he'd ever leave New York, Mateo paused. That pause said more than any answer. Cities shape us. They carve edges. They test patience. New York tested him hard, then rewarded him quietly. The balance felt fair. He sent more money home now, but also letters. Longer ones. Explaining the slow parts. The boring parts. Because that's where life actually happens. Some nights, tourists still ask, "Are you the guy from the video?" Mateo nods politely. Others don't recognize him at all. Both are fine. Fame fades. Skill remains. Community stays. The shop lights glow warm against winter dark. Inside, laughter mixes with oil sounds. The same as Manila, just colder. Mateo stands at the center. Hands steady. Present. The internet will move on. It always does. But stories like this linger. Not because they're loud, but because they're familiar. Someone cooking. Someone missing home. Someone finding footing somewhere unexpected. The documentary ends, but the work doesn't. That's the quiet truth beneath the viral headline. When people say dreams come true overnight, Mateo thinks of nights that didn't. He thinks of dishes, of fear, of silence. He doesn't correct them anymore. He lets them believe. Sometimes belief is the first ingredient. This wasn't a miracle. It was accumulation of trust, of taste, of time. And maybe that's why it matters. Because anyone watching might see themselves not in the explosion, but in the waiting. So here's the question that lingers after the last frame fades. If success hadn't come fast, if no camera ever stopped, would the story still be worth telling? And how many stories like this are we walking past every single day without noticing?